The silver ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. Commander Park Tae-min watched from the bridge of the space station as 12 massive vessels dropped out of hyperspace. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. "They're beautiful," whispered Lieutenant Han Min-soo, staring at the smooth metal hulls that reflected sunlight like mirrors. Park Tae-min was not thinking about beauty. He was thinking about weapons. Those ships carried enough firepower to turn Earth into dust. The alien message came through on all frequencies. The voice was deep and musical, speaking perfect Korean. "I am Kale, diplomatic envoy of the Veltran Empire. Your world has been selected for integration. Prepare for peaceful surrender." Down on Earth, Admiral Kim Bo-ra gathered her senior staff in the war room. The walls showed screens with images of the alien fleet. Every few seconds, more ships appeared from hyperspace. "How many now?" she asked. 47, replied Captain Lee Dong-ho. "And they keep coming." Dr. Yoon So-jin entered the room carrying data tablets. She had been working for 6 hours straight, analyzing the alien signals. "They're using technology we've never seen. Their power sources are incredible. One of those ships could destroy our entire Pacific fleet." Admiral Kim Bo-ra studied the alien formation. The ships were arranged in perfect geometric patterns like a deadly art display. "What do they want?" "Surrender," said Park Tae-min through the communication link. "Complete and immediate surrender." The alien Kyle appeared on the main screen. He was tall and graceful with pale blue skin and golden eyes. His face looked almost human, except for the ridge of bone that ran from his forehead to the back of his skull. He wore a uniform that seemed to be made of liquid metal. "Humans of Earth," Kyle said, his voice calm and confident. "The Veltran Empire has watched your species for many cycles. You have shown promise, but you remain primitive. We offer you protection and advancement. In return, you will provide resources and labor for the greater good of the Empire." Admiral Kim Bo-ra stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" Kale's golden eyes showed surprise, as if the question made no sense. "Refusal is not logical. We have conquered 43 worlds. All chose wisdom over destruction. You will do the same." "Give us time to consider your offer," Kim Bo-ra said. "You have one of your Earth days," Kale replied. The screen went dark. The next 24 hours changed everything. Governments around the world held emergency meetings. Scientists studied the alien ships. Military commanders prepared for the impossible. Captain Lee Dong-ho spent the time visiting army bases. At each stop, he saw the same thing in the soldiers' eyes. Fear, yes, but also something else, anger. The aliens thought humans would just give up. They were wrong. Private Nam Ki-tae was cleaning his rifle when his sergeant found him. "You know that weapon won't work against their shields," Sergeant Choi Ji-woo said. Nam Ki-tae smiled. "Maybe not, but I bet they've never been shot at by someone who refuses to die quietly." Dr. Yoon So-jin worked through the night with her team, studying everything they could about the alien technology. Engineer Park Ji-ho brought her coffee and bad news. "Their weapons are energy-based," he said. "Our armor won't stop them. Our shields won't hold." "Then we don't fight their kind of war," So-jin replied. "We fight our kind." When the deadline arrived, Admiral Kim Bo-ra sent her response. It was simple. No. Kyle's image appeared again on screens worldwide. For the first time, he looked confused. "You choose destruction over wisdom?" "We choose freedom over slavery," Kim Bo-ra said. The first orbital bombardment began 30 minutes later. Beams of white energy fell from the sky like deadly rain. Cities burned. Millions died in the first hour. But humans did not break. Captain Lee Dong-ho led his tanks through the ruins of Seoul. Half his men were dead, but the other half kept fighting. When alien dropships landed, human soldiers met them with everything they had. Lieutenant Han Min-soo piloted his fighter through a storm of alien fire. His plane was damaged, his fuel was low, and his chances were 0. But he had spotted something important. Kale's command ship was protected by only a thin energy shield. "All units, this is Han Min-soo," he said into his radio. "I'm going to show these aliens what humans do when they're angry." His fighter screamed toward the alien flagship. Enemy weapons tore pieces off his plane, but he kept flying. The energy shield flared as he approached, then collapsed under the impact of his sacrifice. The explosion lit up the sky. Kale's ship broke apart, pieces spinning into Earth's atmosphere. Emergency pods launched from the wreckage, but only one made it to the ground. Medic Oh Hee-jin found Kale 3 hours later, unconscious and bleeding in a crater outside the city. His uniform was torn, his perfect alien features marked by burns and cuts. He looked almost human in his pain. "Should we let him die?" asked Corporal Jang Subin. O'Hyejin was already treating his wounds. "We're not like them. We save who we can." While she worked, the surviving alien ships retreated to high orbit. Their perfect formation was broken. Their invincible commander was gone. For the first time in their history, the Velthran Empire had been hurt by a primitive species. Sergeant Choi Ji-woo organized search teams to hunt for other alien survivors. Detective Im Seo-jun studied what remained of Kale's ship, learning everything he could about alien technology. "They thought we would surrender," Choi Ji-woo said as she watched smoke rise from the burning city. "They were wrong," Im Seo-jun replied. "Humans don't surrender. We adapt." Kale woke up in a human medical facility, his golden eyes focusing slowly on the white ceiling above. His head felt like it was splitting apart and every muscle in his body ached. A human female in military uniform sat beside his bed. She had short black hair and tired eyes. "Hello, Kale," Admiral Kim Bora said. "Welcome to Earth. I'm afraid your stay might be longer than you planned." Kyle tried to sit up, but restraints held him to the bed. "My fleet gone," Kim Bora said simply. "Your ships retreated after we destroyed your flagship. You're alone now." "That's impossible," Kale whispered. "We are the Velthran Empire. We do not lose to primitives." Kim Bora stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human soldiers were building defensive positions from the wreckage of alien technology. "You're not fighting primitives anymore, Kale. You're fighting survivors, and survivors do whatever it takes to keep surviving." She turned back to face him, and Kale saw something in her eyes that made his blood run cold. It was not anger or hatred. It was determination. The absolute, unwavering determination of a species that had climbed to the top of their world's food chain by refusing to give up. Ever. "Rest well, Kale," Kim Bora said as she left the room. "Tomorrow we're going to teach you about humans." 3 weeks after the invasion began, Kyle escaped from the human medical facility. His Velthran training had taught him to adapt and survive, and the primitive human locks could not hold him for long. He moved through the ruins of Seoul like a ghost. His advanced suit helped him blend with shadows, and his enhanced senses let him avoid human patrols. The city was a maze of broken buildings and twisted metal, perfect for hiding. But Kale was not alone in the ruins. Sergeant Choi Ji-woo had been tracking him since dawn. She moved carefully through the wreckage, her rifle ready, her eyes scanning every shadow. Behind her, 5 other soldiers followed in complete silence. "Heat signature 2 blocks north," whispered Private Nam Kitai through the radio. Choi Ji-woo nodded. The alien was fast and smart, but he was leaving traces. Humans had been hunting each other for thousands of years. They knew how to read the signs. Kale found temporary shelter in a destroyed apartment building. He needed to rest and plan. His people would come for him eventually. But until then, he had to survive on this hostile world. He activated his emergency beacon, sending a coded signal into space. The message was simple: alive, require extraction. What Kale did not know was that engineer Park Ji-ho had been monitoring alien frequencies since the invasion began. The moment the beacon activated, Park traced the signal to its source. "Got him," Park said to his commander. "3rd floor, building 17. Colonel Bae Hyun-woo studied the tactical display. Surround the building. No escape routes, but Kale was already moving. His suit's sensors had detected the human forces approaching. He leaped from a broken window, using his enhanced muscles to jump impossible distances between buildings. The chase began. Private Nam Kitai was the first to spot the fleeing alien. He raised his rifle and fired, but Kale was too fast. The energy weapon in the alien's hand returned fire, turning concrete into dust where Nam had been standing. "He's heading for the river," Choi Ji-woo reported. "Cut him off at the bridge," Bae Hyun-woo ordered. Corporal Jang Subin was waiting when Kyle reached the water, but instead of trying to capture the alien, she did something unexpected. She played a recording from her radio. It was the voices of Kale's dead crew, their final words as their ship exploded. The sounds of Velthran screams and dying groans filled the air. Kyle stopped running. His golden eyes went wide with shock and grief. For a moment he was frozen by the memory of his friends' deaths. That moment was enough. Medic Oh-hee-jin shot him with a tranquilizer dart, and Kale collapsed beside the dark water. When he woke up again, He was in a different place. This room had no windows, and the walls were made of thick concrete. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. Detective Im Seo-jun sat across from him at a metal table. The human looked tired but alert. "Hello again, Kale. I hope you're comfortable." Kale tested his restraints. They were stronger this time, made from salvaged alien metal. "You cannot hold me forever." "We don't need forever," Im Seo-jun replied. "Just long enough." "Long enough for what?" "To learn about you. Your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses." Im Seo-jun opened a thick folder. "We're very good at learning, Kale. It's one of our best survival traits." Over the next several days, humans studied their prisoner like a laboratory specimen. Dr. Yoon So-jin analyzed his blood and tissue samples. Engineer Park Ji-ho examined his equipment. Psychologist Dr. Shin Era tested his mental responses. What they learned frightened them. Veltrons were stronger, faster, and smarter than humans. Their technology was centuries ahead. Their empire had conquered dozens of worlds through superior firepower and tactical brilliance, but they had one critical weakness. They fought with honor. "Look at this," Dr. Shin Era said to Colonel Bae Hyunwoo. She showed him brain scans of Kale's responses to various scenarios. When we describe dishonorable tactics, his stress levels spike. Lying, cheating, attacking civilians, these concepts actually cause him physical pain. And that's a weakness? For them, yes. They can't think outside their moral framework. They fight the way they believe fighting should be done. Colonel Bae smiled grimly. Humans don't have that problem. They tested their theory carefully. Captain Moon Yoonji visited Kyle's cell wearing the uniform of a Veltron officer, clothing taken from the wreckage of his ship. She spoke to him in his own language, using words she had learned from translation programs. Kyle reacted with confusion and anger. "That uniform is sacred. You dishonor the dead by wearing it." "We dishonor them by winning," Moon Yoonji replied in perfect Velthran. "Your friends died because they fought like gentlemen. We fight like survivors." She left him with that thought. Private Nam Kite had not forgotten his encounter with the alien. While Kale was imprisoned, Nam worked with engineer Park Ji-ho to create new weapons. They combined human creativity with salvaged alien technology. Their energy shields stop direct attacks, Nam explained to his squad, but they're not designed to handle multiple simultaneous impacts from different angles. He demonstrated with a modified rifle that fired 3 shots in rapid succession, each at a slightly different trajectory. Against alien armor, it was devastatingly effective. "Dirty fighting," said Corporal Jang Subin with approval. "The only kind that matters," Nam replied. Meanwhile, the alien fleet remained in high orbit, apparently waiting for something. Intelligence Officer Commander Lee Young-soo monitored their communications, trying to understand their plans. What he learned was disturbing. The Velthron Empire was preparing a second invasion force, much larger than the first. They intended to avenge their fallen comrades and complete the conquest of Earth. "How long do we have?" asked Admiral Kim Bo-ra. 6 months, maybe 8, Lee Young-soo replied. "They're gathering ships from across their empire. Then we need to be ready," Kim Bo-ra authorized. Project Nightmare, a classified program to develop weapons and tactics specifically designed to exploit Veltran psychology and honor codes. If the aliens wanted to fight a clean war, humans would give them the opposite. Captain Seo Min-jae began training special units in deception and psychological warfare. They learned to mimic Velthran voices, forge alien identification codes, and create false surrender signals. Dr. Han So-ra worked with biological samples from Kale, developing weapons that would specifically target Velthran physiology. The work was dangerous and morally questionable, but the survival of humanity was at stake. "They started this war," Dr. Han said to her concerned assistants. "We're going to finish it." In his cell, Kale sensed the change in his captors. The humans were no longer just studying him. They were preparing for something terrible. Their questions became more specific, more focused on weaknesses and vulnerabilities. "What are you planning?" he asked Detective Im Seo-jun during one of their sessions. Im Seo-jun looked at him with something that might have been pity. "We're planning to survive, Kale. And if that means becoming monsters, then that's what we'll become. My people will return. You cannot defeat the Velthran Empire." "Maybe not," Im Seo-jun admitted. "But we can hurt you badly enough that you'll wish you'd never found our world." That night, alone in his cell, Kale tried to understand what he was seeing. These humans were not like any species the Velthran Empire had ever encountered. They seemed capable of abandoning every moral principle if it meant victory. The thought terrified him more than he cared to admit. Colonel Bae Hyunwoo entered Kale's cell carrying a chair and a cup of tea. The alien prisoner watched suspiciously as the human officer sat down across from him. "I thought you might be thirsty," Bae said, offering the tea. Kale did not move. "It is poisoned. If we wanted you dead, you would be dead already." Bae took a sip from the cup to prove it was safe, then placed it on the small table between them. "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. That's fine. I'll do the talking." Bae opened a folder filled with photographs. "These are pictures of your home world. Beautiful place. We found them in your ship's computer." Kale's golden eyes widened slightly. The images showed crystal cities and floating gardens. Landscapes of impossible beauty under twin suns. "Your people call it Velthar, correct? The sacred home." Bae studied the alien's reaction. "You miss it." "Of course I miss it. I may never see it again because of your species' foolishness." "Our foolishness?" Bae leaned back in his chair. "You came here demanding our surrender. You bombed our cities. How is defending ourselves foolish? Because you cannot win." Kale's composure cracked slightly. "The Empire has conquered 43 worlds. We have fleets beyond counting, weapons beyond your understanding. This resistance is meaningless," Bae nodded thoughtfully. "Tell me about those other worlds. What happened to the people there?" "They were integrated into the Empire. They serve now with honor, as slaves, as citizens of a greater civilization." Psychologist Dr. Shin A-Ra entered the room, carrying her own chair and a thick book. She sat down without asking permission and opened the book to a marked page. "This is interesting, Kale," she said. "Colonel Bae, did you know that Velthran language has no word for genocide?" Kyle looked confused. "I do not understand this word." "The complete destruction of an entire species or culture," Dr. Shin explained. "Killing everyone, leaving nothing behind. That concept is unthinkable. Why would anyone do such a thing?" Dr. Shin and Colonel Bae exchanged glances. This was what they had suspected. "Humans do it all the time," Dr. Shin said casually. "We've been doing it to each other for thousands of years. Would you like to hear about some examples?" She began reading from the book. "The Holocaust, the Armenian Genocide, the Rwandan massacres, the systematic destruction of indigenous peoples across multiple continents." She read in a calm, clinical voice as if discussing the weather. Kale's face grew paler with each example. His hands began to shake. "Stop," he whispered. "Oh, we're just getting started," Dr. Shin continued. "This is just the organized genocide. We haven't even discussed the casual mass murder yet. The Mongol conquests, for example. They killed so many people that entire regions became empty forests. The carbon levels in the atmosphere actually dropped. This cannot be true. No civilized species would do such things to itself." "We're not civilized, Kale," Colonel Bae said quietly. "We're survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes." Nurse Kwon Mi-young arrived with Kale's evening meal. The food was carefully prepared according to his species' dietary requirements, information extracted from his medical scans. She set the tray down gently and checked his restraints for comfort. "Is the temperature acceptable?" she asked in broken Velthran. Kale stared at her in confusion. This human was showing him kindness while her colleagues described atrocities. "Why do you care for me?" "I am your enemy." "Because you're hurt," Kwon Mi-young replied simply. "I'm a healer. I heal people." After she left, Dr. Shin continued her history lesson. "The interesting thing about human warfare, Kale, is how creative we get. Take World War II, for example. We invented entirely new ways to kill each other. Gas chambers, mass bombing of civilians, systematic starvation. We turned murder into an industrial process. Your species is insane. No, we're practical. When we fight to win. Honor is a luxury we can't afford." Professor Yu Sang-min joined them, carrying a laptop computer. "I thought you might enjoy seeing some of our military documentaries, Kyle. This one is about the siege of Leningrad. The humans trapped in the city ate leather, wallpaper paste, and eventually each other. They did this for 900 days. The video showed black and white footage of emaciated humans walking through snow-covered ruins. Bodies were stacked like cordwood in the streets. They could have surrendered, Professor Yu explained, but they chose to suffer and die rather than give up. That's the human way." Kale closed his eyes. "Turn it off." But there's so much more to show you. The rape of Nanking, Unit 731's medical experiments, the firebombing of Dresden. We have thousands of years of material. I said turn it off. The humans ignored his protests and continued the lesson. Chef Lim Jae-sung brought dinner for the interrogators. Carefully prepared Korean dishes that filled the room with pleasant aromas. He offered some to Kale, but the alien had lost his appetite. Captain Moon Yoonji entered the cell wearing a captured Veltran officer's uniform. She had modified it slightly, adding human symbols and trophies taken from the battlefield. "Hello, honored enemy," she said in perfect Veltran, using the formal greeting between warriors. Kale recoiled. "You mock everything sacred." "We're adapting your culture to our needs," Moon Yoonji replied. "Just like we adapt everything else. Your technology, your tactics, your language. We take what's useful and improve on it." She showed him a modified Veltran energy weapon. The design was cleaner, more efficient than the original. "Your engineers focused on elegance. Ours focused on killing power. Guess which approach works better?" Detective Im Seo-jun returned with new photographs, these showing the current state of Seoul. Human workers were dismantling crashed alien ships, studying every component. Children played in the rubble, turning pieces of advanced technology into toys. "Your invasion failed because you underestimated us," Im Seo-jun said. "You thought we were primitives, but we're not primitive, Kale. We're experienced. We've been fighting wars since we learned to use tools. The Empire will return, larger fleets better prepared. We're counting on it." Im Seo-jun smiled. "We need more of your technology." Dr. Yoon So-jin joined the group carrying test results from her laboratory. "Kale, I've been studying your physiology. Did you know that Velthrans have never developed immunity to biological weapons? Your species is remarkably vulnerable to engineered diseases. That is because we do not wage war against life itself." "How noble," Dr. Yoon said dryly. "How impractical. We've already developed 3 separate biological agents that would be lethal to your people. Want to see the test results?" Kale shook his head frantically. "You would commit genocide?" "If necessary," Colonel Bay answered. "Though we prefer the term species-level pest control." "You're monsters." "No," Dr. Shin-A-ra corrected. "We're humans, and humans have one rule above all others: we survive. Everything else is negotiable." The interrogation continued for hours. They showed Kale footage of human child soldiers, some barely old enough to walk, trained to use weapons and explosives. They explained how humans had weaponized diseases, turned medical knowledge into tools of war, and developed strategies specifically designed to target enemy psychology. "Your people fight with honor," Captain Moon Yoonji observed. "You follow rules, maintain codes of conduct, show mercy to defeated foes. These are admirable qualities, but they're also weaknesses we can exploit," added Commander Lee Young-soo, who had just arrived with intelligence reports. "We've been studying your fleet's communication patterns. Your commanders always announce their intentions before attacking. Very honorable. Very predictable. We've already developed countermeasures for your next invasion," Engineer Park Ji-ho added. "False surrender signals, fake distress calls, decoy targets filled with explosives. When your forces arrive, they'll face an enemy that fights without rules." Kyle looked around the room at the assembled humans. Each one wore the same expression: calm, determined, utterly without mercy. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. "Nothing," Colonel Bay replied. "We already have everything we need. Your ship's computer, your biological samples, your tactical data. This conversation is just educational for both of us." "You want me to understand what kind of species we're fighting?" Kale said slowly. "Exactly. When the next Velthron fleet arrives, we want them to know what they're facing. Not primitives with crude weapons, but experienced predators who have turned warfare into an art form." Dr. Shin-A-ra closed her history book. "Sweet dreams, Kale. Tomorrow we'll discuss human torture techniques. Some of them are quite ingenious." As the humans filed out of the cell, Kale sat alone in the harsh light, trying to process what he had learned. His people were coming to rescue him, but he was no longer sure that was a good thing. He was beginning to suspect that the real monsters in this war were not the humans after all. They were whatever the humans would become to ensure their survival. The second Velthron fleet appeared on a Monday morning, 8 months after the first invasion failed. This time, there were no warnings, no diplomatic messages, no offers of surrender. 237 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already charging. They had come for revenge. General Corthanus commanded the fleet from his massive dreadnought. He was older than Kale, scarred from decades of conquest, his golden eyes cold with fury. The loss of the first diplomatic mission had been a humiliation the Empire could not tolerate. "Begin orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Reduce their military installations to ash." But when the energy beams struck Earth's surface, they hit empty buildings and abandoned bases. The humans had evacuated everything of value weeks ago. Admiral Kim Bo-Ra watched the bombardment from her underground command center. The aliens were wasting ammunition on targets that no longer mattered, just as she had hoped they would. "Phase 1 complete," reported Commander Park Dahai. "They've committed to surface attack." "Begin Phase 2, Kim Bo-Ra ordered. Wing Commander Ryu Jun-sik launched his fighters from hidden bases scattered across 3 continents. They were not trying to win air battles. That was impossible against Veltron technology. Instead, they were drawing the alien fleet into specific positions. "Gold Squadron, target the medical ships," Ryu ordered through encrypted channels. "Sir, those are non-combatant vessels," replied Lieutenant Park So-young. "Not anymore, they're not. Fire at will." The human fighters swarmed the Veltron medical ships like angry wasps. The aliens were horrified. Attacking healers violated every law of honorable warfare. But the humans did not care about honor. General Corthanus reacted exactly as predicted. He sent his fastest ships to protect the medical vessels, breaking his perfect formation and creating gaps in his defenses. Commander Lee Young-soo had been monitoring Veltron communications for months, learning their protocols and command codes. Now he put that knowledge to use. "All units, this is Fleet Command," he broadcast on Veltron frequencies, perfectly mimicking General Corthanus's voice. "Execute emergency scatter pattern 7. Repeat, scatter pattern 7. Half the alien fleet obeyed the false order, spreading out across the solar system. The other half, closer to the real command ship, maintained formation. The result was chaos. Who gave that order?" Corthanus demanded. "You did, sir," replied his confused communications officer. "I gave no such order. Recall all ships immediately." But it was too late. The scattered ships were easy targets for the hidden weapon platforms that Engineer Park Ji-ho had been building in asteroid fields and orbital debris. The platforms were disguised as space junk, invisible until they opened fire. Captain Seo Min-jae commanded one of these platforms. When a Veltron cruiser passed within range, she activated every weapon system simultaneously. The alien ship died in a sphere of nuclear fire before its crew understood what was happening. "Target destroyed," she reported calmly, moving to next position. Dr. Han Sora launched her biological weapons from satellites that the Veltrons had ignored as harmless communication relays. The engineered viruses were specifically designed to target Veltron physiology, attacking their immune systems and respiratory functions. The first alien boarding parties to land on Earth were already sick before they left their ships. By the time they reached the ground, many were dying. Those who survived found that their environmental suits had been compromised by human saboteurs. Private Nam Kitai led a ground team armed with modified Veltron weapons. They had spent months studying alien technology, improving it, making it deadlier. When they encountered enemy troops, the aliens discovered that humans were using superior versions of their own equipment. "Impossible," gasped a dying Veltron officer. "How do you have our technology?" "We stole it," Nam Kite replied, putting another energy blast through the alien's chest. "Then we made it better." Corporal Jang Soo-bin specialized in psychological warfare. She had recorded the death screams of Velthrons from the first invasion, and now broadcast them on enemy frequencies. The sounds of their own people dying drove many alien soldiers to panic. Lieutenant Colonel Go Hae-won took psychological warfare even further. She dressed human soldiers in captured Veltron uniforms and had them broadcast false surrender messages. When enemy ships approached to accept the surrender, they found themselves in range of hidden nuclear mines. The Veltron Empire had never faced an enemy that fought this way. Their honor-based tactics were useless against humans who ignored every rule of warfare. General Corthanus tried to regain control of the battle, but the humans had turned his own command structure against him. False orders were being broadcast on secured channels. His ship's computers were being hacked by viruses that Engineer Park Ji-ho had hidden in captured alien equipment. "Sir, "We're receiving surrender offers from 12 human settlements," reported his tactical officer. "Accept them immediately," Corthanus ordered. At least some humans still showed wisdom. But when his ships moved to the surrender coordinates, they found empty buildings rigged with antimatter explosives. The detonations destroyed 6 Velthron vessels and damaged a dozen more. Dr. Yoon So-jin had prepared special surprises for the alien boarding parties. Medical stations that released poison gas when activated, food supplies contaminated with engineered bacteria. Even the air recycling systems had been weaponized. Medic Oh Hae-jin worked in one of the few genuine medical facilities, treating wounded humans and aliens alike. But the medicines she gave to Velthron prisoners were carefully designed to cause delayed organ failure. By the time the symptoms appeared, the treated aliens would be back on their ships, spreading the effects to their crews. "Why do you heal us?" asked a wounded Velthron soldier. "Because I'm a doctor," Oh Hae-jin replied sweetly, injecting him with what he believed was painkillers but was actually a slow-acting toxin. The space battle raged for 18 hours. Human losses were enormous. Entire fighter squadrons were wiped out in seconds by superior alien firepower. But the Velthrons were losing too, and in ways they had never experienced before. Their medical ships had been targeted first, leaving wounded with no treatment. Their supply vessels had been infected with diseases that contaminated food and water. Their communication systems were compromised by human hackers who fed false information to everyone. Commander Park Dae-hai led the final phase of the human counterattack. She had been saving the worst surprise for last: civilian transport ships loaded with nuclear weapons and crewed by volunteers. "All martyrs, this is command," she broadcast. "Execute final option." 23 human freighters broke from concealment around Earth's moon, accelerating toward the Veltron fleet at maximum speed. Each ship broadcast surrender messages while racing directly at enemy vessels. The Velthron captains faced an impossible choice: accept the surrender and risk deception, or fire on defenseless civilians. Their honor codes demanded they accept surrender offers. It was the last mistake many of them would make. The suicide ships detonated their nuclear warheads inside the Veltron formation, turning space into a hellscape of radiation and debris. 17 alien vessels were destroyed instantly. Many more were damaged beyond repair. General Corthanus watched his proud fleet disintegrating around him. In less than a day, the humans had reduced his force by nearly half. And they had done it using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," his communications officer reported. "It's from our missing envoy." Kyle's image appeared on the command screen. He looked older, thinner, his golden eyes filled with a terrible understanding. "General Corthanus," Kyle said in Veltron, "I am alive and unharmed. The humans wish to open negotiations." "Negotiations?" Corthanus was incredulous. "After what they've done, we will burn their world to cinders." "No, you won't," Kale replied quietly. "Because if you try, they'll kill us all. Every last one of us. And they'll enjoy doing it." On the surface, Admiral Kim Bora smiled as she watched the alien fleet's formation continue to crumble. The Velthrons were learning what every human military commander knew. In war, there are no rules except victory. "Prepare Phase 3, she ordered. Her officers looked at her in surprise. Phase 3 was the nuclear option. Literally, if implemented, it would render large portions of Earth uninhabitable, but it would also guarantee that any surviving Velthrons would never forget this battle. "Ma'am, are you sure?" asked Commander Lee Young-soo. "They came to our world uninvited," Kim Bora replied. "They threatened our children. They tried to enslave our species. I'm not just sure, I'm looking forward to it." In space, General Corthanus felt something he had never experienced in 40 years of conquest. Fear. Not fear of death. Fear of what these humans might become if they were pushed too far. And they were nowhere near finished pushing back. 6 months had passed since the second Velthron fleet limped away from Earth. In those 6 months, Kale had learned more about humans than he ever wanted to know. He sat in what the humans called a comfortable cell. A room with a bed, desk and window overlooking the rebuilding city of Seoul. The window had bars, but they were polite bars. He was a prisoner, but a respected one. Mayor Kim Jin-ho visited him regularly to discuss the reconstruction efforts. The human official was a short, practical man who seemed to view the alien invasion as merely another urban planning challenge. We're not rebuilding the city the way it was, Kim Jin-ho explained, showing Kale architectural plans. We're making it stronger. Every building now has multiple underground levels. Every school is also a bunker. Every hospital can be converted to a military command center. Kale studied the plans. They were ugly but efficient, designed for survival rather than beauty. You expect more attacks. We hope for peace, but we prepare for war, Kim Jin-ho replied. That's the human way. The reconstruction was happening with frightening speed. Director Choi Sang-hoon had organized the entire population like a military unit. Every citizen had assigned roles, quotas to meet, duties to perform. Those who could not work were fed and cared for, but everyone who could contribute was expected to do so. Resources are limited, Choi Sang-hoon had told his department heads. We waste nothing. Not materials, not time, not human potential. Every decision must serve survival. Kale watched children playing in the streets outside his window, but even their games had changed. They practiced hiding drills, emergency evacuations, and basic combat techniques. Teacher Park Sun-mi had integrated military training into the standard curriculum. Math lesson today, Park Sun-mi announced to her class of 8-year-olds. If one human fighter can destroy a Velthran supply ship carrying food for 1,000 soldiers, how many fighters do we need to starve an entire alien fleet? The children raised their hands eagerly, competing to solve the problem. Their casual discussion of mass starvation tactics would have horrified any Velthran, but to these human young, it was simply education. Captain Lee Jae-min ran the civilian defense training programs. Every day, ordinary citizens learned to use captured alien weapons, set improvised traps, and coordinate resistance activities. Farmers, teachers, doctors, and shopkeepers all received basic military instruction. You never know when you might be the last line of defense, Lee Jae-min told a group of elderly volunteers learning to operate anti-aircraft missiles. Age doesn't matter. Profession doesn't matter. If you're human and you're breathing, you're a potential soldier. The old humans nodded gravely and returned to their weapons training. Dr. Yoon Tai-woo had become fascinated by Velthran biology and psychology. He visited Kyle weekly to conduct what he called cultural exchange sessions. These were actually sophisticated interrogations designed to extract information about alien society and weaknesses. Tell me about Velthran child-rearing practices, Dr. Yoon would ask innocently. Our young are treasured and protected, Kale would reply. They grow in safety and comfort until they reach maturity. How interesting. Human children learn to fight before they learn to read. It's a survival mechanism developed over millions of years. Dr. Yoon showed Kyle video footage of human children throughout history. Young ones fighting in wars, working in dangerous conditions, surviving disasters that would destroy adult Velthrans. The psychologist was building a comprehensive profile of species-level differences. Colonel Bae Hyun-woo brought Kale books to read. Not entertainment, but carefully selected human history texts, military strategy guides, accounts of genocides, revolutions, and total wars. He wanted the alien to understand exactly what kind of species he was dealing with. Your people have a saying, Bae told Kale during one of their discussions. Honor in defeat is still honor. Humans have a different saying. There is no honor in extinction. Kale had been studying human military history for months. The more he read, the more disturbed he became. Your species has no limits. You fight without restraint, target civilians, use any weapon available. How do you live with yourselves? By living, Bae replied simply. Dead species don't get to worry about moral philosophy. Engineer Nam Soo-jin was working miracles with captured Velthran technology. She had not only reverse-engineered alien systems but improved them dramatically. The enhanced weapons were more powerful, more reliable, and easier to manufacture than the originals. Your engineers are artists, she told Kale when she brought him one of her modified energy rifles to examine. They create beautiful, elegant solutions. Human engineers create functional solutions. Guess which approach produces better weapons? The rifle in Kale's hands was uglier than anything his people would build, but its power output readings were 30% higher than standard Velthran military equipment. Communications Officer Park Min-ho monitored space constantly, tracking the movements of the surviving Velthran fleet. The aliens had retreated to the edge of the solar system and remained there, apparently afraid to approach Earth again. They're calling for reinforcements, Park Min-ho reported to Admiral Kim Bo-ra. Massive fleet buildup in the outer colonies. Good, Kim Bo-ra replied. The more ships they send, the more technology we'll capture when we destroy them. Her confidence was not bravado. In the months since the second invasion, human military capability had grown exponentially. They were no longer the primitive species the Veltrons had first encountered. Dr. Shin Era continued her psychological studies of both humans and Veltrons. Her research had revealed fundamental differences in how the two species approached conflict. Veltrons fight to prove superiority, she explained to a gathering of military commanders. Victory validates their strength and honor. Humans fight to eliminate threats. Victory means the enemy can never threaten us again. That's why they show mercy to defeated foes, added intelligence analyst Commander Lee Young-soo. In their minds, a beaten enemy has learned their place in the hierarchy. They don't understand that humans see every enemy as a potential future threat. Kale learned about human mercy during a conversation with medic Oh Hee-jin. She had been treating his minor health problems with perfect professional care, and he had begun to think of her as almost kind. You are not like the others, he told her one day. You have compassion, Oh Hee-jin smiled sadly. I have compassion for individuals, Kale. But I also understand necessity. If your fleet returns and I have to choose between saving human lives and Veltron lives, I won't hesitate to let every alien on Earth die. Even me, after all this time caring for me? Especially you, she replied gently. You're the most dangerous one of all. You understand us now. The human capacity for compartmentalization amazed and terrified Kale. They could show individual kindness while planning species-level extinction. They could befriend enemies while preparing to destroy them utterly. Detective Im Seo-jun brought him news from the outside galaxy. Human deep space probes had been launched using captured Veltron faster-than-light technology. The probes were broadcasting a simple message to every inhabited system they encountered. What does the message say? Kale asked. It identifies Earth as a dangerous world to be avoided, Im Seo-jun replied. We're establishing a reputation. As monsters? As survivors who will do anything to keep surviving. There's a difference. The most disturbing thing Kale learned was how quickly humans adapted to new moral baselines. Actions that would have horrified them before the invasion were now routine policy. The targeting of civilians, the use of biological weapons, the execution of prisoners, all had become acceptable when survival was at stake. We crossed lines we never thought we'd cross, admitted Captain Moon Yoon-ji during one of their conversations. But once you cross the first line, the rest become easier. Now there are no lines at all. Doesn't that frighten you? Terrify me, she admitted. But not enough to stop. If being monsters means our children get to grow up free, then we'll be monsters. As the months passed, Kale realized that he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. The military evolution of an entire species in real time. Humans were becoming something new, something adapted specifically for total war. And the most frightening part was that they seemed to be enjoying the process. You're changing us, he told Admiral Kim Bo-ra during one of her rare visits. No, Kale, she replied. We're just becoming what we always were underneath the civilization. You've stripped away the pretenses and shown us what we really are. And what is that? Kim Bo-ra looked out the barred window at the militarized city beyond. Apex predators who learned to use tools and build spaceships. Your people made a mistake when they decided to hunt us. What mistake? They forgot that the most dangerous prey is the kind that hunts back. That night, alone in his cell, Kale tried to compose a message to his people. He wanted to warn them about what they were facing, what humanity was becoming. But every time he tried to put his thoughts into words, he realized how inadequate language was for describing the transformation he had witnessed. How do you explain a species that would sacrifice its own moral identity to ensure its survival? How do you warn a warrior culture about an enemy that had abandoned the concept of honor entirely?